propped up if it's more comfortable for you. Any way that you can sit up tall, not feel stiff or rigid, and get a comfortable position. You can settle into your hips, into your spine. Let's take a few moments. If you want to work with the mudra, you can have the first finger and thumb together with the palms up. You can have fingers interlocked. Anything that just helps you to feel grounded and helps you to be settled into your physical body. You can also close your eyes. See if you can rest your eyes at one point. This could be gazing toward the tip of the nose or toward the center of the eyebrows. If that doesn't feel like it works for you and your eyes wander a lot, you can always have the eyes like halfway open and gaze toward one point on the floor. This will always help slow the mind down a little bit. Help us to concentrate on the breath. And we'll start to focus on the physical sensation of the breath moving through the nose and throat. Noticing just by bringing attention to the breath, the inhalations and exhalations lengthen on their own. We start to use our exhalations to let go of any unnecessary tension in the body. Any gripping around the hips or the legs, relax. Shoulders, eyes, jaw, soften. Continue to pay attention to your breathing pattern. Start to bring some attention now to your intention for class. This could be something you'd like to manifest in terms of your health or well-being. It could be a spiritual aspiration you have within your own heart. And as you continue to focus on that intention, take the next 3 breaths with awareness at the heart center, right behind the sternum. Palms together in front of the heart center. We ask and trust that our practice today supports this intention and moves it towards its fullest expression. We'll chant Hari Om 3 times together. Inhale. And we'll come on to all fours. Move any props off to the side, the wrists under the shoulders and knees under the hips. And start you off in cat-cow stretch. So get a few rounds in where the inhalation takes the tailbone, chest, and head out. You've got extension in the spine. As you exhale, it's a flexion in the spine. Draw the navel and relax the neck muscles. Go back and forth at your own pace, and after a few rounds, if you want to add in a short internal and external breath retention, feel free to do that. You're just taking a little bit of a pause at the end of your inhale. You might bring a little more attention to the collarbone, to the upper back, and that length and quality of the ribcage away from the hip. And at the end of your exhale, maybe bring in a little more of a scoop or drawn in feature to the lower belly. Maybe relax the neck a bit more. As you continue to go back and forth, make sure you're going at your own pace. You might move a little faster or slower than me. If at any point, if you do add the breath retention and it doesn't feel good to you for whatever reason, maybe makes you feel a little nervous or anxious, go ahead and just let that go. Just keep the breath fluid along with the movement. Let's do one more full round. It's up to you whether you work with the breath retention or not. Take your time. And on your next inhale, we'll come to more of a neutral position for the spine. Check in, make sure all the fingertips are rooting, wrists are under the shoulders still as you bring the knees in closer toward the midline. And take the right leg back and up like so the right knee stays slightly bent so you keep the hamstrings a little engaged and the glute feels like it's activated. And we're going to bring the knee off to the side. When you bring the knee back down and center, bring it slightly forward. And then hit those 3 points, but in a more circular fashion with the hips. You've got the opportunity here to explore a range of motion. Slower the better with this movement as it helps you to articulate the movement a bit more. And make sure both arms stay straight, feel rooted through not just the fingertips, but also feeling supported in your shoulder girdle. We're going to stay on this leg, and we're going to go off to the other, in the other direction. Now we're not correlating breath with movement here, so be mindful of your breathing pattern. Depending on how fast or slow you're moving, you might find an organic connection with the breath in the movement. Finish that round, meet the knees up. And switch body weight, make minor adjustments with the upper body. Left leg lifts up and back. Engagement with the hamstring and the glute. Knee off to the side. Forward and forward and toward the center. All those deep muscles in the hip structure, muscles around the sacrum. And stay on that side, switch direction. Navel firm enough here to stabilize, support the lower back. And then last full round, when the knees meet up, we're going to keep the knees and the feet close together, sit back on the heels. Now if you need a block bolster or a combination of props to make Vajrasana more available to you, feel free to sit up. And if you don't have those props, you can always sit in a seated cross-legged position. Once you're in a seated position, we're going to interlock the fingers, have the forearms pretty close toward each other, and then do a figure 8 movement with the hands. So we get into those forearm muscles and wrist joints. Reverse the direction. You keep regulating your breath, about a 5-second breath in, 5-second breath out. And just making sure that you're being mindful throughout the practice of Ujjayi breathing. If you're familiar with that rasping breath, that conscious breathing, anything that's going to help you to be more mindful of your breathing pattern, counting the breath to yourself is really effective. Some sort of tool like that, if you feel like you lose awareness of your breath, can be really helpful. Done that, we're going to shake the wrists out. We're going to come forward onto the palms, get the knees hip width distance apart. Feet hip width distance apart, curl the toes under. Take the hands about 1.5 inches in front of your shoulders so that when you come forward, your shoulders are over the wrists and you feel like your knees are behind the hips. Now there's going to be a tendency for you to rest into your hips here. I want you to keep these rib cage muscles and navel firm so you're in basically like a modified plank pose. Keeping the toes curled under, I'm going to have you slowly take your hips back. Instead of feeling like you're taking the hips back toward the heels, which they'll do that, I want you to focus a little bit more on taking the hips back toward the wall behind you and getting the belly toward the thighs. So we're focused more on this flexion in the hip and allowing that natural internal rotation of the thighs to come into play here. And take a couple breaths here and see if you notice any sensations around the sacrum, maybe somewhere deep in your hip. There shouldn't be any pinching. If you do have any kind of pinching, maybe you've gone too far, maybe you need to make some adjustments with making the knees maybe a little wider. Now come forward and we're going to go back and forth. So this is going to be our inhale, modified plank, strong stabilizing muscles in torso. On the exhale, we take those hips back, we take belly on thighs, being mindful of that relationship of leg bones and the hip sockets. And then do that 3 more times. You'll go at your own pace. And a little strengthening opportunity here, so don't rush through that. Follow through with your inhale when you're coming forward. And follow through the exhale, so we take a moment in that shape on the way back. And you might move a little faster or slower than me, that's alright. And the next time you come forward, keep the toes curled under, but lift the knees up when you start to exhale, so you can get back into downward facing dog. And once you get back into downward facing dog, it feels good to bend one knee, press to opposite heel, alternate the legs. Go ahead and do that. And now we're going to come into the top of push-up. So now we get into full plank pose. You can bring the knees down at any point if you'd like. We're going to take a full 30 seconds here. Move through those fingertips. If you have wrist issues, remember you can do this on your forearms. At least a 5-second breath in and 5-second breath out. You're halfway there. Strong upper back. Chest muscles. Knees are up. Legs are charged up. And this time on the exhale, we're going to bring the knees down wide, tops of the feet to the floor. Then we go back into that full child's pose. Hips back, relax the chest and belly toward floor. So you inhale, come forward again. Curl the toes under, feet hip width distance apart. Exhale, downward facing dog. We do that 2 more times. Inhale, full plank. Exhale, child's pose. Find more flexion happening here in child's pose than we did with that last exercise. Forward, take your time. Shoulders away from the ears here. As you move back to down dog. Take our time, finishing with that last round. We'll all meet back in downward facing dog. And then walk hands back toward the feet until you get the heels to touch the floor. And once they do, come up halfway, lengthen the torso, and then deepen the forward fold on the exhale. Next breath in, sweep arms to the side, strong belly, back, and legs. Touch palms overhead at the end of your inhale. If you want, you can lean back, and then end up with arms alongside the body in Tadasana. Take one resting breath here. Let's check in with the feet. Feet, all the toes pointing straight ahead. Make sure we're not locking the knees out. Feel steady in the hips. Rib cage over hips, shoulder girdle over rib cage. Keep the body in one plane for the side stretch. Half moon. Inhale, arms up. Grab the right wrist with the left hand. Take a lean towards your left. You can either gaze toward the horizon or up past your right elbow. Take a couple of breaths here. Feel that expansive quality of the inhalation. Move through the right sideline and hip. You'll come back to center on your inhale. Change sides, grab the left wrist, and then we'll take a lean to the right. Remember, we're lifting and lengthening to the left sideline as we're leaning. Check in with your breathing pattern. Next, inhale, torso, come back to center. Take arms down, back into Tadasana. We'll then heel tilt the feet closer toward the midline. All the toes point straight ahead. On the next inhale, bend the knees, sink hips, settle into hips, heels, arms sweep forward, up, slightly back. Keep the navel firm towards the rib cage area. And now on the next exhale, You'll straighten the legs, take arms past the hips, squeeze the upper back so you feel like you're broadening the collarbones. We're going to do that breath enhanced next. Inhale, sink hips, lift heart and arms. Exhale, straighten legs, arms back, and broaden the collarbones. We'll do that 3 more times. In both positions, on the inhale, we want to just make sure we're not flaring the lower front rib cage forward, and on the exhale, we want to make sure you're not flaring the lower front rib cage forward. This will give us more of a true movement in the shoulder blade. Do one last round. Strengthening those postural muscles in the upper back and long spine. And on the next inhale, we'll come back to a neutral position for the arms and spine and take one full resting breath here. On the next inhale, we'll sweep the arms up. If you choose, you can lean back. You might engage your glutes. Take a forward fold, hinge at the hip. Now we'll keep the legs closer together. Start walking the hands forward. And then we're going to do side plank or Vasisthasana. Remember, you've got options here, bringing right knee down if we're supporting on the right palm, sole of left foot. You can also have the ankles stacked over each other. You can also be on your right forearm if you have any wrist issues. Check in with your breathing pattern. 7 more seconds. Then move through plank pose. Change sides. Same variation you practice on the first side, do on this side. Strong lift in these rib cage muscles. Strong lift in the hip. 5 more seconds. And then full plank pose. We'll lower all the way down to the floor, knees, chest, and chin, chaturanga. Once we're down, we're going to lift the chest up, lengthen the navel, bring the flat of the belly down. Once we got the flat of the belly down, feet will stay about hip width distance apart. Take arms alongside the body, with palms touching the floor. Arms are at a slight angle. Engage the glutes to lift the feet up. Don't bend your knees. Keep the lift to the chest, strong back. And a similar feeling of broadening the collarbones that we did with that one exercise here. A bit more comfortable with movement or awareness in the upper back and chest as you breathe in. Lower down, hands under shoulders. Curl the toes under, push chest and belly away from floor, followed by the knees. Once you're back in downward facing dog, we're going to take right foot to the outside of the right wrist for a wide runner's lunge. If you need to bring the left knee down first and grab the ankle, get the right foot there, go ahead and do that. Once you're in this wide runner's lunge, on the next exhale, twist toward your right, palm onto the right big toe, firmly planted, and strong back leg. On your next inhale, we'll come out of the twist, bend the right elbow, and deepen the flexion in the right hip. The right forearm may touch the floor, it doesn't have to. We're kind of moving the torso in that direction. On next exhale, come out, twist. Inhale, out of twist, and into flexion in the hip. Do that 2 more times. Lengthen, twist from the waist. Inhale, lengthen, and draw that right rib cage to the inside of that right thigh. Last full round. Right palm comes back down. You'll have the option of taking right foot back, going directly into downward facing dog, or you can move through a vinyasa on the belly of lowering down, moving through cobra as you breathe in, and then meeting back up in downward facing dog on the exhale. And from this downward facing dog, exhale, left foot forward into a wide runner's lunge. Set it to lunge, take your time. Next exhale, twist towards your left. And inhale out of the twist, and belly and chest moves toward the floor. Go at your own pace. One side might feel a little different than the other, so be mindful. Not feeding any imbalances. If you've got a lot more mobility twisting in this direction, just make sure you're not feeding into that. Finishing up that last round. And then once that left palm comes down, sweep that left foot back and directly into downward facing dog or vinyasa on the belly. Once we meet back in downward facing dog, we're going to take the left knee behind the left wrist, shin and top of the foot on the floor. Scoot the right foot back, settle into the hips as evenly as you can. Once you have this position here, you're going to take a little more of a restorative approach. If it feels good to have maybe a block or a bolster underneath the left hip and partial thigh, on that left side, you can get a little more support. Just make sure you're not leaning really far over. Now, sometimes with this posture, we need to make modifications. If there's any issues with the left knee, you can do reclining pigeon on the back. But once you get the shape that you're working with, find as much relaxation as you can. Check in if you're in this position with the back leg, muscles around the left hip. Relax your navel. Relax your jaw. You might even relax your neck a little bit. Some of you might even bring the forehead down to the floor, to the back of your hands. Follow the breath into the body. Notice how the body responds to the breath. We're going to take one more breath here. We'll have some options for this next shape. Right forearm parallel to the short edge of the mat in front, elbow under shoulder. We'll all start there. Either left hand on left thigh, and we can use a little push into the thigh with the palm to open up the navel and chest toward the wall on our left. If you have the availability at this point to bend that right knee and reach back for the inside of the right foot with the left hand, you can reach back for the bind. With this one, we're not trying to squeeze the heel in toward the hip and scrunching up the shoulder. Want a little bit of pressure from the top of the foot into the hand while we lengthen the sternum away from the belly button at the same time. So there's going to be more of a taut feeling in this arm with the binding position. And then let go of any unnecessary tension that you might find here along your spine. Upper back feels strong though for support. You got a little bit of that taut feeling in the left arm. On the next inhale, release the bind, no slingshots. And then once you get both palms down, take the body weight out of the hips. Now you'll have that option of a vinyasa or down dog. Remember, checking with your breathing pattern. If it feels erratic, if it feels like it's short, take the resting pose. If you want and feel like you're up for more movement, feel like you need some more back bending in today's practice, feel more like you want an energized practice versus a more calming practice, the vinyasa is there for you. You can even take child's pose instead of downward facing dog as an option for this resting pose. Now we're going to switch sides. Right knee comes forward. Settle into hips. Make minor adjustments. Use props if it's helpful for you. And then we'll take this more relaxed or passive restorative position here. Take a few moments, any minor adjustments, but then once those minor adjustments are done, start to settle in. Let any unnecessary tension melt away from the back leg, hip, navel relaxes, jaw, eyes. Stay attentive to how the body is responding to the breath. And simply be with the shape and your breath. There's nothing else to do. And have to push, strive for a deeper stretch. Get lost in some idea of what your body should feel like, but be more in tune to what it feels like in this moment. And we're going to take that second shape. Lower half of the body stays where it's at for now as we set up the left arm, parallel to the short edge of the mat with the forearm. Right hand can be on the thigh. And make sure especially if you're doing this one, it's really easy to push so much and you start going into this lower back area with the twist. Don't do that. If you have this bind, use the arm to support more of the twist in the thoracic or upper part of the torso. Feel like you're lengthening the lower part of the torso and twist from the lower rim of the rib cage. If the thoracic spine feels a little stuck, you're going to want to rely more on hip movement or sacral movement. And it's still true when you have the binding option, but it happens a little bit more, I've noticed, when people keep their palm on the thigh. Checking with your breathing pattern. New shape, new sensations. Slowly release that bind. And one more opportunity here for vinyasa, or you can go right into that resting pose. And then from this downward facing dog, we'll take knees down, hips over knees, stretch arms out in front, slowly move belly and chest toward floor until you reach a comfortable boundary with shoulders and spine. Relax the neck at the end. Breathing here in quarter dog. Torso up, that weight out of spine and back, and then we'll walk the hands back. You'll have a few options from here. If you don't quite have a wall to work with, or if you're not doing a full inversion today, from downward facing dog, you'll get to feel a little closer together. You can do some mat work here. When one leg lifts up, you bend the knees so you get a little more weight toward, like over the heart. And then you still get feet over hips, hips over heart, and heart overhead, one leg at a time. 3 or 4 breaths on each side. You do have a piece of furniture, like I can use my couch. You can use a wall also behind you, where you've got either feet on the wall from this downward facing dog position. You can use my couch. You can start working one leg at a time. Just make sure if you're using a piece of furniture, that furniture is nice and stable and it won't slide on the floor. If you're working on handstand, You can use the wall behind you, jump up in the middle of the room. If you're by yourself, please be careful if you're working on inversions. It's always wise if they're new for you to work with someone in person for the first time so that you can understand where your boundaries are. But if you're up and staying up anywhere between 6 to 10 full breaths, and often we find ourselves coming down after a few breaths, and maybe we take a breather and come back up. Take your time, there's no rush. Get the benefits of the inversion. Even when we're working with one leg at a time, we're getting a little more of that blood from the veins up back to the lungs for oxygenation, and then we're bringing that oxygenated blood up toward the brain. Take your time. Again, if you're moving away from your original place in the room and using a wall at home, take your resting breaths either in Vasisthasana or any seated position or child's pose. Observe the sensations before you move your way back to the original place in the room. Where we'll meet up is flat on the belly and thighs in the crossing. Once you get here, flat on the belly, legs close together, big toes touch, heels fall away from each other, cross the wrists and place the chin on cross wrists. We'll take some resting breaths here, let everybody get caught up. And see if there's any unnecessary tension that you can let go of around the hips, lower back. Keep the head resting, bring the legs back together, bend both knees, feel that playing out in the lower back and hips before taking sweeping circles with the feet. Another one where we're not pulling breath with movement, so make sure you're not holding the breath in or out unconsciously. We'll reverse the direction that we're rotating in. Bring the tops of the feet down about mat width distance apart. They might end up there naturally, but not moving a little wider than your hips. Scoop elbows under shoulders. Elbows under shoulders, forearms and wrists shoulder width distance apart for Sphinx pose. And then with a strong back, you've got that slight forward movement with the sternum. You're going to settle into the hips and take a few more breaths here in Sphinx. It's another posture when we start getting into back bends. Right? Navel's more restricted, back line is more restricted, so that chest and upper back area where the lungs live is going to naturally be more attention drawn there. If you feel like that makes you anxious in any way, see if you can focus on this lower ribcage area underneath the armpit and get more of like that freedom or expansion there towards the lower part of the shoulder blade and underneath the arm. That chest or collarbone breathing kind of makes you a little uneasy. Take one more breath here in Sphinx. And then you can come down and rest if you'd like. You have two options from here. You've got lifting the elbows up, furthering the extension of the spine for a version of Cobra, or if it's comfortable to reach back for the outside of both ankles there, right at the crook of the foot. You can practice both today. Once you do have the bind, you can engage the glutes to help lift the thighs up. And keep that strong back to help lift the chest. So we've got cobra or bow pose. Good 4 full breaths in either of those postures. Lower down and release the bind if you've got both. And then turn the head to the right so the left ear goes to the mat. Relax the arms, legs, hips, and shoulders completely. Relax your jaw. On the next inhale, lift heart and head up. Turn your head in the opposite direction and lower down. Settle everything back in. Inhale, lift heart and head. Hands under shoulders, curl toes under, leave the knees on the floor. Fire up the abdominal muscles. Back to chest, move chest and belly away from the floor. We'll move knees forward. Keep the knees close together, but widen your feet. Now, for a lot of us, we're going to need something here, such as a bolster or a block. If sitting back in between the feet is not available for you and you don't have any of those props, make sure the hips are supported by something. If they're not, then you can sit on your heels or come into a cross-legged seated position. Once you have a seated position, we're going to bring fingers in front of the shoulders, thumbs behind. Big circles now with the elbows. We get that rotation in the shoulder joint. Feel the upper back, chest muscles getting a little stretch. Reverse the direction. Follow the breath in through the nose. Forward, take any props off to the side, or if you're in a cross-legged seated position, take the legs back again. And then with knees under the hips, take the right palm just to the outside of the mat. Sweep left arm underneath the right and slowly bring shoulder and head to floor. Keep the right arm supportive. Relax any unnecessary tension around the left shoulder, upper back. Relax the neck and relax your jaw. Next breath in, use that upper back and right palm to come out of that stretch. Take the left hand just to the outside of the mat and we'll sweep that right arm underneath and lower down. Free breathing. Relax any tension around the right upper back now, neck and jaw. Push into that left upper back palm. From here, we'll cross the ankles, either sweep the feet forward to the side or underneath the hips. Get the legs extended out in front. With this next posture, if seated forward folds or seated twists are more comfortable for you with elevated hips, now's the time where you're going to place like a fold up blanket or something underneath the hips. We're going to take the soles of the feet together, heels close to the hips for Baddha Konasana. This can be a challenging posture for some, and so I want to make sure that you're honest with yourself about where the spine is in space. Now when we interlock the fingers, wrap the hands around the outer edges of the feet toward the toes, this is where we gotta get a sense of what this is gonna feel like in the spine once we have this bind here. So use the binding to lengthen up out of deep flexion in your spine. Now there's going to be a little bit of flexion happening in our spine here. We're in a seated position, so that in itself is going to lend to more flexion in the spine. However, when we start seeing all these fancy Yogi Journal Instagram pictures, we start to see people getting their forehead to the floor and belly really close to the heels. I want you to start letting go of all those ideas of where the body should be and start to explore what it's like to use this bind with the arm and upper back to create some length in the back, to strengthen the back muscles, to notice what happens in the hip structure, right? Right where the flexion, right where the crease of the hip is, leg bones, before you start to deepen the flexion in the hip. So take the opportunity to explore, move the legs a little bit, lengthen, and find a sweet spot where you feel like you're able to access an area in the body that needs the attention. For some, it might be lower back, it might be hip structure, it might be somewhere in the upper back. Right? If I feel like I'm overstretching the upper back muscles, maybe those muscles could benefit from a little contraction, a little strengthening. And then we hold the shape. Wherever we find that sweet spot, we're going to hold the shape and breathe. And follow the breath into the body. Notice how the body responds to the breath. You're able to create space or ease. Two more breaths. On the next inhale, bring the torso up, extend the legs back out, move hips forward so we can come to lie onto the back. Once you're on the back, knees bent, feet about mat width distance apart, settle into hips, shoulder blades, arms off to the side. I'm my couch here, so I can't go out to a T formation. If you can go arms to a T formation. I'm trying to have my arms at a slight angle. Those of you that are apartment living like I am, you gotta work with what you got. So once you're here, we're going to do a little movement with the legs. We got windshield wipers next. Knees go off toward the right. You're going to turn your head to the left. Come back to center as you inhale. Take knees off to the left, head off to the right. Back to center. And go back and forth like that at your own pace, breath enhanced. And as you continue to do this, there may be a tendency to use force to get the legs closer to the floor, and I'm going to encourage you to resist that. Instead, once the knees go off to the side, right at the end of your exhale, relax. Let the shoulders be heavy. Let the legs simply be heavy for a moment. If you need to stay on one side and do one full breath to train yourself more to do that and get out of the habit of pushing the legs down, go ahead and take one breath on each side. For those of you who have been practicing with me for a while and have heard this kind of cueing before, then just keep doing what you're doing. But just notice the difference. When you take a moment to find that relaxation, giving into gravity, notice what happens in the hip structure, muscles around the sacrum, the lower back. Do one last round. Take your time. As you find your way back to center, take a moment to assess the physical body. If there's any other simple posture, movement you feel would bring further compensation into any joints or muscles, please feel free to do that for yourself. And then we'll meet up in corpse pose, Shavasana. Take your time to also find a comfortable neutral position for the physical body for this last resting pose. You want something over the eyes to block the light, something under the knees, maybe that feels more supportive for your lower back. Another layer of clothes to maintain body temperature. When you do that, you want to keep your attention as internal as possible. So try not to distract yourself, particularly when we're at home, by something that might be externally going on. And get yourself settled into corpse pose. Start paying attention to your breath. Letting go of any tension that you might find in the body. Eyes and jaw are a good place to start. Arms, legs, hips, and shoulders, all muscles and bones give into gravity. Relax the throat, relax the navel. As you continue to draw your attention inward by focusing on the breath, stay receptive to all that's within your highest good in regards to healing and resolution. start to create some movement in the physical body and start to take deeper breaths in. Take your time to find yourself coming back up into comfortable seated position. You may want the hips a little higher than your knees. And you get settled in. The eyes closed or halfway open. The eyes rest at one point again. Start to focus on the breath moving through the nose. Do a pretty simple but effective breathing technique. I want you to allow your inhale and exhale to be whatever length is comfortable for you in the moment. You don't have to create a particular ratio to the breath. Just allowing the inhalation and exhalation to feel comfortable, natural. Even if every once in a while you feel like you need to take a longer breath in or out, allow yourself to do that. As you find some natural rhythm to your breathing pattern, start to add a very short internal and external breath retention. Shouldn't be any longer than 2 seconds. Just a short pause, both at the end of your inhale and at the end of your exhale. Do this for a few minutes. Your last round, finishing on the exhale if you're still working with the external breath retention. And then letting go of the breath retention. The next minute or so, Focus on your natural breathing pattern. Pay particular attention to the moment, space that lies there between your inhale and exhale naturally. Pay particular attention to that space or moment that lies there between the inhale and exhale naturally. Breath in, allow your attention to drift outward, becoming more aware of the space and the sounds around you. As you exhale, feel the support of the floor underneath you and your body weight settles into spine and hips. Bring the palms together in front of the heart center, and we'll take a moment for reflection and gratitude. Anything that moves through our hearts and our minds, we'd like to acknowledge and give thanks for. Seal the practice by chanting Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Inhale. Shanti Shanti Shanti. May all beings, without one exception, know peace and be released from suffering. So it is, and so it shall be. Namaste. Everyone that's joining out there live, thanks for joining me tonight. If you're watching the recording, remember if you have any questions, you can always email us at info@tejousyogachicago.com. We love having you practice out there with us. If you have any comments, suggestions, or